The other day I posted a video of a helicopter flying on Run Rider, and some of the guys noticed that I was flying it with a radio that looked a little different than what we normally see here in the United States. So I thought I'd do a video real quick and tell you guys what the radio is. It's called a Spektrum DX10t. You can find all the specs on this radio if you go to the Horizon Hobby website. It's on there and they tell you a little bit about it. But I'll go over it very quickly. Won't go into the software too much because you want to keep the video short. But anyway, it's a tray style radio. It requires you to use a shoulder harness and a neck strap, and it attaches to the arms on the radio here, as you can see, attachment points. So once you attach it, then you put the radio on and it appears to be a tray style radio. It allows you to rest your hands here on these sides and give you a very precise feel on the radio because you're flying it as if it's in a tray. Another thing that's very different about this radio is it has adjustable switch pods on it. These particular pods on this radio can be adjusted up or down so that you can comfortably set them to fit your particular flying needs. This particular pod here has some 3-position switches and some 2-position switches. And on this side you've got some 3-position and 2-position and some rotary switches. But there are a variety of pods available for this radio. So there's a set of pods that can change the switch configuration on this particular side and some pods for this side, so that you can customize this radio to fit your particular needs. So if you want another pod that goes on here, there's a whole bank of switches across the top and a couple of switches on the bottom. So you can configure the radio in a number of different ways by changing the pods on the radio. Another thing the radio does that's different that we normally don't see is it's got some tip switches that are here on the sticks. So you got some switches here on the tips, and then on the back side of the radio you've also got some switches on the base of the sticks. These switches through the software can be assigned to do a number of different things. For example, on this particular switch here, because it's a mode 2 radio, I have assigned what they call the auto trim function to one of my tip switches. So if I'm holding trim in the airplane or helicopter, as if it is here, I can hit the switch on the back side of the switch and it will automatically trim the radio to neutral at that point, which stops me from having to reach down and trim the radio in the conventional fashion, which we normally did with the trimmer tabs. The trimmer tabs still work, but you can hold trim in the radio and hit the switch and it will send everything to 0, which makes it very quick and convenient in trimming an out of trim airplane or helicopter. Another thing the radio does is it has some compartments on the radio here, left and right compartment, and in these compartments you've got some tools, and I'll go over the tools here in a few minutes. But it does come with an SD card, which allows you to put infinite number of models on your card. It allows you to be able to do software updates as they become available. An SD card goes in this side. On this side here you've got the charge jack, which all you have to do on this particular radio is supply 12 volts to it. It comes with an international charger, which is just a 12-volt wall charger, but you can also apply 12 volts from a field battery. And it's non-polaritively sensitive. So in other words, if you hook it up backwards, you won't kill your radio. It has a li-poly battery in the radio, and the charging circuit is handled through the software in the radio. So in other words, you do not have to use a special li-poly charger to charge the radio. You supply 12 volts to this port. Internally, the radio handles the charging for you. All the cutoff voltages and all the safety circuits are built internally into the radio, so there's no fear of overcharging your li-poly on a different setting or anything like that. The radio itself handles that. We did talk about the tools for the radio. You use this particular tool, and what that tool does, that allows you to change this radio from mode 1 to mode 2, mode 3, or mode 4. You can change the mode electrically through the software of the radio, but you still have to deal with the mechanics of the sticks. Normally that's a trip back to Dave Poole and the guys at the service center. But now with this particular radio, you can use the tool that comes with the radio, insert the tool into the back of the radio, and there's some holes back here, and by changing the position of the springs through that tool, you're able to change this radio over from mode 1 to mode 2 without a trip back to the service center. So in other words, you see how this radio here in mode 2, you've got your springs and you really don't have a throttle. If you're a mode 1 flyer, you want this stick on that side and vice versa. Now you can do that as the user of the radio. Another thing too about this radio that's a lot different is it comes with a new 10-channel receiver. It's square, more of a squarish looking receiver than what we've seen before. It has one internal receiver with the option of putting 3 remotes onto the receiver. Another thing the radio does is it comes with a new expansion module called an X Plus. And what this X Plus does, through this bus, you can add an additional 8 channels to the radio. So now the 10-channel radio has become 18 channels. You got 10 conventional channels in your main receiver with an additional 8 channels off the end of the bus. Neat thing about this bus is that you can put it in a different position in the airplane and plug the servos into it, and it can be supplied by the main receiver power, or you can remove the jumper and supply the X-Bus module with its own power source. So that's completely new for this particular radio. It's called X Plus. You access it and you can assign the additional channels to switches or anything you might want to do with it. So that's it in a nutshell. It has a different look. The antenna is collapsible, so you can put it in your case. It's a lot sturdier than the normal Spektrum antennas that we've been seeing. It's very thin in shape. It's light. And it does have a real nice, precise feel to it. Once you get used to flying a tray radio, you'll find that when you lay your hands on the radio, you can move the sticks very precisely. So, if you guys got some questions, post them on Run Rider, and I'll do my best to answer them for you. Thanks for watching.